Hey there. So in this episode of the course on whining, tantrums, and tears, I'm going to focus specifically on whining and some of the different ways that this can manifest, how to interact with it, or at least some of the possibilities of the ways that you can interact with it, and the downstream consequences for interacting in different ways. So first, let's go back to our model of the traffic wheel. And let's say that a child all of a sudden has a desire or seemingly expresses a desire for some juice, right? So she wants something and she says, I want some juice in a real whiny voice, okay? So what she's trying to do is affect change. Remember our circle? She's trying to affect change and get the juice, okay? So what do we do in this situation? Well, it depends on a couple of things. Number one, it's important to know, is this a chronic issue for this kid? Is this something he or she does all the time? Because if it's not a chronic issue, okay, kind of big deal. We all feel a little whiny sometimes. We all feel a little just like mopey or whatever. And not everything needs to be disciplined. We don't have to teach all the time. Sometimes we just understand that's where somebody's at and we get them some juice, okay? But if the issue is chronic, it is important to start figuring out why this issue is chronic and how you as the parent can help in this situation. And here it's important to pivot back to our other model of Parenting 1.0, Parenting 2.0, and Parenting 3.0. Parenting 1.0, if this happens to be in the camp that you're in, and it's no problem if you are. We're all wherever we're at in all of this, and we're all built differently. And these aren't necessarily stages sequentially, even though I've laid them out this way. Some of it's just more of a style difference. But let's say you're a Parenting 1.0 kind of person who really will not tolerate behaviors like that, is ready to punish for behaviors like that, or at least not give in to the behaviors, is really stiff about it, and is like, no way, I'm not responding to that. Well, here are a couple of things to consider. Number one, you might want to consider that the child has some need behind that you're not focused on, that you're not addressing. And so it might not be the child's fault. It might not be their problem. Even though you don't want that whining behavior, it might be your issue to look behind the need, identify the need, and meet it. Okay? So that's one of our responsibilities as parents. And in general, in this Parenting 1.0 situation, what happens a lot of times is we're not connecting enough with our child. We're not really listening to them. We're not deeply attaching to them. This brings their nervous system to rest. When we're deeply connected and we're meeting their needs regularly, they're less likely to whine in the first place. So make sure you're connecting regularly. Make sure you're connecting in a hierarchy, because attachment is hierarchy, and make sure you're meeting their needs over and over again to get less of this whiny behavior. For parents who are in the more, what I'll call enlightened parenting situation, the Parenting 2.0 situation, what you probably tend to do is you probably tend to be kinder, gentler, more acknowledging of the feelings, going with the flow of their emotion, allowing them to express themselves in whatever they want. And this is an upside in certain ways. But what you tend not to do in this situation is to set clear boundaries and to make loving demands on their behavior that would benefit them in their life, as well as the family and the wider context in which they're in. So one of the interesting things is that parents in the Parenting 2.0 situation often give in to their child's emotional manipulation, and therefore they reinforce that behavior. You're likely to get more of it every time you give in to some kind of emotional manipulation, whether it be whining or aggression or anything like that. And the irony here is parents in the Parenting 2.0 situation look back at the Parenting 1.0 and often say the problem with that approach is too much manipulation, too much punishments, bribes, rewards, consequences. We're not supposed to manipulate each other like that. We're supposed to grant autonomy and sovereignty to people, and that's not a good way to do it. But the fascinating thing is, when you parent in this way, without boundaries, this is the exact thing you create. You support and then actually encourage emotional manipulation more whining, more emotional manipulation, more aggression, more tantrums in order for them to get their way. So you create the very tyrants that you're hoping that parents won't be to their children. It's a kind of irony in this situation. So let me go through some of the ways that you could deal with this, and we'll look at the upsides and downsides of each of these as we go. So your child comes in, says, I want some juice, right? You see in that situation, like she's a little maybe whiny and that doesn't really feel good, but whatever. She's normally not like this. This isn't a chronic problem with her. You just get her some juice and go, here you go, my love. That's it. You don't have to discipline it. It's just a one-off situation. No problem at all. Or in another situation, she might come in and say, I want some juice. And she's being whiny about things like that. And you look a little deeper than the behavior and you realize she's tired. She needs a nap. Okay, I'll get her some juice and not, deal with this whininess head on. But I need to get her to a nap because this whininess is going to continue. It's not about the juice or whatever she's saying it's about a deeper need. So identifying that need and meeting it and bringing the nervous system to rest. One of the main principles, right? You could also, if she's really whiny about it, you could say to her, okay, a normal voice would work just fine, and you go ahead and get the juice. You've dropped a little teaching. You taught her something, but you're not going to make a big deal out of it, and you still just get the juice. That's perfectly appropriate too, just a little teaching. You could teach a little bit more directly. You could decide when she says, I want some juice. You could kneel down, connect with her, get her eyes, get her smile, do a little connection, make sure she feels your heart, make sure she feels you're on the same team, and then say, you don't have to use a whiny voice with me. I want to take care of you. I love you. And I'll get you some juice. And then you go and you either have a hug in that moment or you just go and get the juice. What you're saying in that situation, whether you say it with words or not, is basically that it's not the whining that moves me, sweetheart. It's my love for you. So you can just ask for juice and my heart will be moved to care for you. That's also teaching the nervous system and the behaviors that come out of the nervous system to act in particular ways. Now, you could say to her, she says, I want some juice. And you kind of realize this isn't about the juice. I don't know what's going on with her. She's cranky. I'm not quite able to identify the need, but it's not about juice. And, we just had a bunch of sugar and things like that. And that's not what she needs right now. It's like, no, we're not having juice right now. And you might set a firm limit. And then she might get cranked up. I want juice. And then go into a full tantrum, perhaps. Well, if they go into a full tantrum, and we'll talk about this a lot more in later classes, one of the things you want to do, one of the principles is you want to move the tears from mad to sad. Instead of aggressive, you want to bring them into the softness and vulnerability. And you just set a limit, saying they can't get what they want in the situation because you felt like it wasn't a need, it was a want. You set a limit. They kind of got cranked up and more intense and aggressive and tantrumy with this. But now what you do is you invite them into their tears. I know. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Come here, love. And you attempt to try to bring them up onto your lap or in some way support them while they drop into their more vulnerable emotions. We'll talk about that adaptive process later. It's incredibly important, incredibly healing, incredibly nourishing. One of the most important things in parenting. Another way to work with it is just to be matter-of-fact about it. I want some juice. And it's like, no, I'm not going to respond to that. I want juice. It's like, yeah, no, I don't work like that, love, And you're just kind of firm. You're not being an asshole, but you're just like, no, I'm solid. I'm not going to be emotionally manipulated by a whiny little voice, And so you don't necessarily say that, but with your disposition, you're like, yeah, no, I don't work like that. And then she throws herself on the floor and she's crying, like that. And it's like, you know what? This is a little hard on the ears. If you want to cry, you can go into your room, okay? All right. Yeah, no, I love you, but no, it's a little rough on the ears. Okay, yeah. And so you're nice and firm. You're holding a space for her for a relationship. She's not out of your heart. You're available. But you're also not going to be yanked around by that bullshit. You're not going to just do what somebody says just because they're going to be emotional and try to yank you around. It's good to be solid and clear when you know your heart's in it. When you're loving. It's not only good for you and the relationships in the family, but it's good for them long term as well. So those are a few insights on the whining portion of the equation. We'll move in a little bit to tantrums and aggression in the next video. Take care.